Charlie, the big report out this week, supply and demand numbers from the USDA. Obviously, we'll talk about things just as it relates to feed costs and input prices. On the protein side of things, were you a little surprised to see this reduction for production for 2024?
Yeah, so it's the World Agriculture Supply and Demand Estimates. I simply call them WASDE. So in the future, if people hear me say WASDE, that's what I'm referring to. If we look at the WASDE reports, I was kind of shocked to see the adjustment, just because we thought, if you look at the quarterly reports and the monthly reports that kind of, fill in the back end of 2024, and you can look at certain weekly data sets. We would expect, lower, or we expect lower production compared to 2023. We had fewer animals, but when they open up 2025 with lower adjusted numbers, that kind of is a sticker shock to me. And if we look at, the report, the reason why they were adjusting the numbers is because of expectations for slaughter numbers and weights in December. If we're looking at red meat and poultry production. And so if I think about that, I say poultry, I'm more talking about egg production from that standpoint. But, if one of the first things that sticks out is if they have red meat reduction, my mind automatically starts thinking, okay, down the line to the consumer, we've already started saying we're going to have fewer pounds to sell to that consumer at the end of the day here pretty soon.
I would also assume lower production means we're probably going to see higher inputs, specifically on the beef side of things in 2025.
Right. Yeah. If we think about it and you look at the report, if you want to, we can go ahead and get into the beef side of things. 2025 beef production. If you go from the last report to today's report or this week's report, 2025 beef production was actually raised because of higher placements expected during the fourth quarter of 2024. That incremental raise, though, equates to approximately 125 million pounds for the 2025 expectation or the 2025 estimate. But that adjustment up still leaves 2025 beef production down 4.42% compared to 2024. And so if we think about that, that's simply saying, yeah, we've given you more production in 2025. We're adjusting 125 million pounds. But in total, we're expecting fewer or lower amounts of beef production, which is that 4.42%. But if you really look at the report, it's kind of interesting how they get to that number. In quarter one of this year, USDA is expecting actually higher beef production compared to 2024. But then if you start comparing 2025, and if you go from Q2 of 2025 and Q3 and Q4 of 2025, they have expectations decreasing. And if you look at it, and when we get to quarter three quarter three of 2025, we're expected to be at 815 million pounds lower compared to 2024. And then if we get into quarter four of this year compared to last year, 2025 quarter four production is expected to be almost 1.2 billion pounds lower. So if we take that report and we think about we're going to have lower production on the aggregate for the whole year, that production decrease is really expected to come in Q3 and Q4, or the second half of this year, which is why if you look at that report as well, we start seeing price adjustments. And so steer prices are expected, or they were adjusted up $5 from the previous report to this week's report. It was adjusted $5 up to $1.96 or 196 per hundredweight for prices in 2025. But if you think about prices being that high, number one, that's a sticker shock. Just $1.96 a pound or or $196 per hundredweight being adjusted. That much, $5 is a big adjustment. But as I was mentioning, quarter one of 2025 is expected to have more production. And then production is expected to decrease as we get throughout the year, with the second half of the year really having a severe decrease. Well, if we think about that in terms of prices, supply goes down, what happens to price? Price has to go up, right? So prices in 2025 are expected to really ramp up in quarter three. And that's where they expect prices to be at $1.96 per hundredweight. But in quarter four, prices are expected to rise to $1.98 per pound or $198 per hundredweight. And so we have this decrease happening in beef production throughout the year that's being expected. We expect prices to increase. And so it's not somewhat, if you think about supply and demand, just classic economics, lower supply, higher prices. We see the market at work within the WASDE report. And so if we think about, when we get to that January 1 report that comes out next month, that's going to be something that will be really interesting to see. Maybe the next WASDE report has an adjustment even higher if we were to have more liquidation than what they anticipated making this report. And we see that there really is no sign of heifer retention. We might see this adjusted number be even higher next year or next report, which will be something I'm watching on the beef side.